right. Hi, everyone, and a very, very happy new year. A warm welcome to our webinar, Resource Management Trends and Predictions for 2025. My name is Nora, and I'm so excited to be your lead webinar host today. As a new work consultant, I am passionate about unleashing the potential of organizations and people by creating more adaptive, soulful, and joyful ways of working. And my mission is to inspire new ways of thinking, working, and being. And I'm so thrilled to guide you through today's discussion, a very inspiring discussion, I'm sure, on resource management trends and predictions for 2025. And as always, we have prepared a little bit of a poll to get warm, to get into the flow of the conversation. So Edom, feel free to launch the poll. We would like to hear from you in terms of what's one area in resource management you would like to focus on improving in 2025. Is it around communication and collaboration? Are you looking into a more data-driven resource management approach? Maybe expanding cross-skilling and talent mobility, increasing efficiency through new tech and tools, or maybe something else? Feel free, if it's something else, to also share it in our chat. Feel free to also select multiple if you have several ones on your horizon, and we would love to hear from you. So just take a moment to reflect what's important as we enter 2025. And Edom, feel free to end the poll so we can see the results. I can see 2 messages. Hi, Ravi. Nice that you're joining us. And let's see what came out. So we've got about half of the people focusing on building a more data-driven resource management approach, which is very interesting. Our next webinar in February will actually dive into data governance. So this might be interesting for you. We've got about a third on increasing efficiency through new tech and tools and expanding cross-skilling and talent mobility. Fantastic. And some people are also focusing on communication and collaboration. So we'll take this into consideration as we're moving along through our discussion today. Let's make sure to also talk about data a little bit. Nice. Awesome. So this webinar is part of Run's webinar series called LEAP, Igniting the Future of Resource Management. Through this program, our goal is to reinvent the traditional approach to resource management and unpack fresh and inspiring perspectives for the resource management community on how this future could look like. This webinar is brought to you by Run. Run offers a resource management software solving the very challenge of matching work to be done and finding the best suited people for the job. We'll use the last 15 minutes for any questions that you might have. Feel free to capture them throughout the conversation. There's a Q&A section in Zoom webinar, so feel free to use that. Feel free to also share any thoughts in the chat along the way. That's always very welcome. And any interactions, any reactions are very, very welcome to make it more lively so we know you're there. That's always a good feeling. Next up, I would love to introduce to you today's wonderful panelists. We've got a powerhouse, a female powerhouse today with Andrea Davis, Sid Mills, and Nikki Cherpak. It's fantastic to welcome Andrea Davis, founder and CEO of Linked Workforce and a seasoned workforce management consultant with over 16 years of experience. She specializes in resource management, workforce planning, and the associated technology. Andrea, so excited to have you on the panel. A warm welcome.
Thank you so much, Nora. I'm super excited for this panel today. Thank you.
Great. We're also thrilled to have Sid Mills, a seasoned operations professional with a diverse background, with us today. Sid's expertise lies in developing and optimizing operational strategies that deliver tangible results, and she has held positions at startups as well as large corporations. In her most recent role, Sid established the Professional Services Operations Department from scratch. Sid, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Nora. I'm so happy to be here.
Yay. And lastly, it's my absolute pleasure to introduce you to our third panelist, Nikki Chirpak, a recognized leader in resource planning and staffing operations with over a decade of experience. Currently, as a manager of resource planning analysis at Accenture Health, Nikki drives operational excellence by leveraging her diverse background in implementation, project management, strategic resource management, and regulatory affairs. We are so happy to have you here, Nikki.
Thank you so much, Nora. I'm so excited to be here today.
Oh, fantastic. So, with this panel, we will be exploring the following topics. We will share what's exciting us in resource management right now. We will explore resource management predictions, trends, and challenges for 2025. And we will also dive into sharing advice for the year ahead. So, stay tuned for all of these exciting topics. To kick us off, ladies, I would love to hear from you. What's exciting you the most in resource management as we enter 2025, and why? And I would love to kick off with you, Andrea.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nora. And I think this year, what I am super excited about is the transformation that's happening within resource management, and specifically around not just aligning people to the right roles and the right projects, but the real impact that resource management can have across the whole organization. A lot of folks mentioned data-driven, and I think that is a really important piece of resource management and how it can be successful. But I'm really, the other piece that I think is really exciting for this year is the impact to things such as risk management. Areas we don't typically think about within resource management that have such a significant impact to the business. So that's one that I think it will come to light more this year, and I'm super excited to work on it.
Great. Thanks for kicking us off. And next,
Yes.
Sid, what are you looking forward to as we enter 2025?
Sure. Yeah, I love what Andrea mentioned as far as risk management. I feel like resource management is a huge strategy center for organizations. It helps drive budget and revenue growth, and I'm really excited for resource managers to be showcased in that light and really come forward as more of a strategic center for businesses.
Nice. Awesome. Thanks, Sid. And how about you, Nikki?
I definitely love everything both Andrea and Sid mentioned. One thing I'm really excited about, and this really plays on that whole data-driven perspective, is being able to provide that strategic analysis of both what is currently needed and potentially what's going to be needed in the future. So instead of, resourcing just in time, bringing that ability to work with external stakeholders like recruiting or business development and really engaging with those teams to understand what the future needs are, and then being able to look proactively both internally and externally to meet those needs. I also love, like Sid mentioned, the cross functionality of the role. It's a lot of change management for a lot of organizations as well. And what I'm seeing and very excited about is that larger and smaller organizations are both recognizing the need of resource management. And it's something that's new. It's something that's exciting. And I think once you get in there and you're able to work with, your organization or help another organization, you can really create the role to be that strategic function and, meet so many needs, not just true, here's a person to your needs. So it's really going to develop and become a much larger role than I think it is today.
Yeah, that is definitely many reasons to get excited for the new year. I'm wondering, as we're looking into what's happening around us, the labor market, and how it's changing, the economy, how is that going to influence resource management in this year? And how are these external factors going to affect the day-to-day operations of resource management? Sid, could you maybe share your perspective on that?
Sure, sure. Yeah, and I know like data-driven approach keeps coming up, and I think that that will be huge. I think that forecasting and capacity planning are going to be two topics that will really be important for this year as businesses plan out the year and budget for the year, and having data analysis and dashboarding, report creation around that, I think will be a big thing.
Nice. Thank you. What would you add, Nikki?
I totally agree with Sid. I think one big thing to note with the economy this year is I have a feeling that a lot of organizations, mine including, is trying to be more lean. So I
Mm,
think in addition to, to what I mentioned before with the forecast planning, demand planning, it will also be more of that puzzle piece. How can we build our internal team members to meet our needs? Looking more strongly at utilization across and leveraging utilization, maybe higher utilization targets than maybe previously had been there. Or really truly looking at skills that maybe might not have known people had before. And so cross-functionally, this person might never had supported this project before, but now we know they have that skill set and they have capacity and can, grow into a bigger role or a role that we might not have otherwise known.
nice. Awesome. Thanks, Nikki. And Andrea, as you're looking ahead, how do you see the labor market and economy impacting resource management this year?
Yeah, I think it goes to the role, and the role of resource management is ever changing. And I think organizations will have to pivot on, if they really want to be competitive in the market and how they want to respond. And so, to Nikki's point, understanding that skill set, but also not going through this vicious cycle of hire and fire,
Mm,
really thinking about that workforce plan to make sure that you have the right people in the right roles, kind of building on what Nikki mentioned, and also having a really impactful upskilling plan. How are you going to prepare folks for roles of the future? I think of things like artificial intelligence that all of us need to understand, whether you're in resource management or another part of the organization, and being able to upskill to see how that can make your job more efficient. How do you utilize that to drive more data-driven results? But really, the economy is really it's dictating that we need to upskill, and it's dictating that we need to pivot our strategy. And I think resource management is a critical point of that, and really can be at the front lines of building that strategy.
I love it. You mentioned the hire and fire tendency, especially with this economy at the
Yeah.
moment, and how a workforce plan could help. Can you maybe elaborate on any resource managers listening in right now? What can they proactively do to support their organization through this challenging time? What is some advice you would like to share?
Sure. Something that has worked really well for me in the past is the partnership with sales and growth and your growth operations or growth strategy team within your organizations. I think one of the big disconnects that is often missed is that connection between resource management and the sales team to understand what is really happening in the market, what's real, what might be in a system, but what is really happening in the sales world, and then preparing for that. So really adjusting plans and forecasts based on what's coming, what's actually going to come in, and having that connectivity, whether it's through a system, which is always fantastic, or through conversations and relationships that you have within the organization. So I think really planning ahead, not just looking at the now, but
Mhm.
really planning ahead and partnering with that sales organization to understand what's coming forward. And then it always ties back to the upskilling, because you may have skills that are just no longer going to be needed. And where do you pivot those folks so they're more impactful for the organization?
Yeah, I love it. The partnership with sales comes up in almost every webinar. So I would
Yes.
highly highlight that point as being super critical as we move into this new year. I wonder, Nikki, if you could share something around upskilling, any examples, any best practices you have seen for upskilling, employees inside an organization.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that's really big now, I think it's the skills database. Whether it's, utilizing the resumes or CVs or actually truly having a database that stores credentials, stores, educational credentials, or whether there's a skill set on a developer that's needed, down to different project work they've completed and being able to keep that up to date as they transition through different projects, right? But one thing I've always loved doing is hearing somebody's wants and needs, and maybe they haven't worked on that type of project yet, but they have the drive to do so. So I really support buddy systems if it's
Mm.
possible, right? If it's within the budget. I mean, obviously you have to work with sales, and if it's a specific contract, it's harder to do. But if there's an opportunity to have somebody job shadow, or instead of taking a specific job title and you might have a, like that lower level resource with that higher level resource support, that expert, and blending that time together, or just having a larger team, even where you have maybe, again, lower level, lower experience, but have that team lead that can really drive that learning and dedication. I've seen clients really happy because, happy employees make good employees. They do good work. So they're excited, they're eager to please, and then you have that quality assurance at the end that that team lead is checking the work, they're developing them, and they're happy. Like they want that mentorship. So I really do like that structure. I really love developing people, getting them where, what they want to do, what they want to support, as long as it's contractually feasible, obviously. But I think that that's been a win-win from my experience, is that when you have the flexibility to build that kind of team.
Nice. I love that. That resonates very, very much, Nikki. Thank you. And I'm just wondering, Sid, if you could maybe share with us your perspective on, let's say, the blended workforce, the gig economy. A huge shift that I'm sensing is resource managers will not just focus on the internal employees, but there is a new layer coming up, and it's quite diverse in terms of contractors for short term, long term. How's this dynamic going to play out in this year? What can resource managers be maybe thinking about right now?
Sure, sure. Yeah, I think that Andrea and Nikki kind of hit the nail on the head. Having a really accurate skills matrix or skills database, I think, is key. What skills are needed and who has those, including soft skills, and developing that out also for contractors and partners.
Mm.
Some companies have partner managers, others don't. Sometimes it lies in the resource management arena, but making sure that you have a skills matrix built out for the partner organizations that you're working with
Mhm.
as well, inclusive of time zones,
Mhm.
and also making sure that the contracts and agreements with clients include whether they will allow, offshore, onshore, contractor work, as well. But having all of that in hand will then be able to guide the resource manager to plot in the right people to the right project.
Fantastic. Yes, thanks for highlighting the importance of the skills matrix and um, basically expanding it to any external resources as well. That's very, very clever. I'm wondering, Andrea, what are you sensing in terms of challenges as we move into this new year? What's laying ahead? What are some of the pitfalls that might be waiting, and how can we proactively navigate around them?
Well, I think there's a lot of changes here, right? There's a lot of political impacts. There's changes in parties in the on the U.S. end. There's going to be changes in there's going to be shift in the economy to what you said earlier. So all of those are going to impact business. I think some of the things that I would say from a resource management perspective is change is constant, and we are certainly, this is going to be another year of a lot of change. And so I think sometimes we as resource management professionals can fall into this change fatigue. And so I think we have to be cautious of how do we navigate these ever-changing waters in a way that is productive for your own well-being, but also productive for the organization or the function that you're leading charge. And I think we can't fall behind in times of automation and AI. I will repeat that again because it is here. It's not going to fade away. It's not a fad. It's a something that is going to continue to evolve and be part of our daily lives. So I think we have an opportunity to really avoid missing the technology train and really understanding what the technology can do to enhance our roles. And then I would say, thirdly, from a potential pitfall is not doing the same thing and expecting different results. I hear a lot of resource management professionals say like, hey, this worked here, and every organization, every culture, every, processes are unique. So being very thoughtful and strategic, we say strategic a lot, but very thoughtful in what resource management is doing and shifting to be able to meet the needs of the strategy of what the business is looking to achieve. And so I think really being mindful this year of where those strategies lie, where you fit in, and where you can elevate the role of the resource manager will avoid us going down those pitfalls.
Yeah, very wise. Thank you, Andrea. I wonder, Sid, are you sensing any additional challenges apart from AI, change fatigue, and basically, the pitfall of repeating old patterns, expecting different results?
I fully agree with all of that completely. The only other thing that I would add is I do agree, like change is inevitable. And really opening up the lines of communication with the C-suite executives at the organization and other departments in the organization to get full clarity on the vision and the goal of the organization, because that may actually be changing throughout the year as well. And just making sure that the resource manager is aligned to the vision and goals of the organization so that they can really position themselves in the best way.
Amen. Absolutely. I see lots of thumbs flying. Mine too. I wonder, Nikki, with those challenges, what could resource managers proactively do? What's
Oh
the
gosh.
strategic advice?
I know Andrea has mentioned this before, but one big partnership for me is with business development, where your new pipeline is. And one thing I've always liked to do is, at your capacity, learn the clients, learn the strategy behind the sales, even the proposal process if you can. That way you learn the nuances that come with each client or even with each representative or business development resource, and recognizing what their plan is for 2025. I think it would just equip yourselves to better work, better try to predict the future, right? We all wish we had that crystal ball, but we don't. So being able to recognize, does this client have budget constraints? Are they government related? Those take into a lot of accounts where contract start dates may or may not be pushed out. Recognizing niches or skill sets, right, that might be unique to a client, that maybe you look internally and you recognize, oh, we have an abundance, or we need to hire, we should be proactive, we have a deficit in this area. So I really think a lot of what I would suggest is trying to strategize ahead of time, ahead of that pipeline, recognize what's coming down, what might be delayed also. So maybe it's a tough year and there's the new business isn't coming in. How can I, keep ahead of the times? Where can the resources go if we don't get this contract or bid? So I think it's a lot of that. Again, trying to predict the future as well as you can. So utilizing other areas and their knowledge and their perspectives of what could potentially happen. Sid mentioned C-level, goals. I think that's a great one as well. Just being able to react proactively. I know that's kind of opposite terms, but truly being able to try to predict the future as best as you can and have a plan once plan A or plan B could happen.
Amazing. I love all of those answers. Absolutely. I wonder for everyone dialing in today, what are some of the growth opportunities? What are some of the career paths opening up as we enter this new year for resource management professionals? Maybe Sid, what are you sensing?
Yeah. Well, I think all of us have kind of hit on it. I feel like the resource management field is going to expand
Mhm.
in itself. I think that there's a lot of opportunities opening up for resource managers within the resource management field. But I also see a lot of transferable skills from resource managers into other fields, such as program management, project management. I myself went into operations. Revenue operations is a big one now as well. And even the talent management, talent development and learning, more of the HR function. I could see all of that inclusive of transferable skills from a resource manager.
Fantastic. Thank you. Nikki, would you add anything? What other growth opportunities can you sense?
Honestly, Sid hit the nail on the head. I couldn't agree more. I know from my background, I did start in project management, moved into resource management, but I see it all the time. Resource managers move into program project management. Maybe it's a team building role, like you're there to build a team, oversee a team.
Mm.
I've also seen a lot move into business development because of that relationship that you build with those team members. You start to learn that side of the business
Right.
or work on proposals, right? Because you know the resourcing, you learn what comes through. And so now you have this skill set, right, of proposal development and recognizing what roles actually need to be provided on that type of contract or that type of project work. And even, overseeing PMOs, RMOs, that sort of thing. But I think any partnership really, even overseeing recruiting, right? Because you know the strategy behind what you need to hire. So that becomes a recruiting responsibility and working with the recruiters to understand what is needed. So I think there's so many directions and the transferable skills are like literally, I think the biggest thing there is we in resource management have so many different skills, so many different backgrounds. So it's really capitalizing on those relationships that you build with other stakeholders and learning, oh, I could be good at that. I like that. And what you're passionate about, I think really helps too.
I love that you're actually pointing towards what am I passionate about, right? And it's so interesting. In order to be a good resource manager, it is helpful to build those connections. And in the long term, you can also benefit from those connections because it's opening up this entire new career path for you. So it's a win-win for everyone. So absolutely love that. Andrea, as we're in our networks, I think we're all sensing that there are many incredibly talented individuals currently looking for jobs in the resource management space and beyond. Do you have some advice for those professionals? How can they make 2025 their best year?
Yeah, I love that. And I think one of the things is I think resource management is becoming an antiquated word in the industry or term. And I think folks are moving away from using that terminology. So one quick hit is that there could be resource management buried under various different terms, resource planning. There's so many different terms that there could be out there. So that's one. I even heard a very interesting title the other day was Chief Utilization Officer, who oversees resource management and operations at the firm that they're at. And so really being creative and looking for terms outside of resource management. The other thing I'll go back to is data and technology. I can't stress enough how important those pieces are going to be this year and beyond 25 is really understanding if you don't feel like you have that current skill set, YouTube is our friend where we can, other things that we can do to truly just learn. you have to be understanding of what is happening from a technology perspective, how to be data driven if you're not comfortable with that, and then how to story tell. I think that is another piece of the resource management puzzle of how to be a great storyteller to build cases or build business cases and build helping the C-suite or leaders understand the impact of resource management to the organization. So I would say really hone in on those skill sets and be able to share that and explain that impact that you can make to an organization. I say that to say it's still a very tough market, so I don't want to downplay. The market is very tough. And I will put a shameless plug for Linked Workforces. We're announcing a new opportunity where we're going to help folks connect, resource management professionals connect to opportunities in the market, because I think it is a very niche skill set, and there's an opportunity to be a little bit more deliberate in the market.
Fantastic. I mean, wow, that was such a wealth of great advice. I captured be creative. Don't just look for resource management jobs, but maybe other titles are being used, such as Chief Utilization Officer. I love that. And especially your point around honing in on skills. I found that incredibly inspiring. And I could not agree more that YouTube is such a great resource to just learn about something new. And I love your point around data tech skills as well as storytelling being critical as we move into the new year. Fantastic. I wonder if there is anything else, Nikki, Sid, that you would like to build on in terms of advice, anything on top of that for anyone listening right now. Nikki,
Yeah.
I can see you're unmuted.
I love everything Andrea said. I mean, I think highlighting skills has been such a huge, that's what we do. We highlight skills. So you need to highlight your skills, and you have so many transferable skills. So it's really important to drive that home. For me, it's all about building connections as well. That's pretty much what we do as a role, but with yourself. So whether it's LinkedIn, don't be scared to connect with those recruiters. Look at the organizations you're interested in and see who works there, connect with people, or local, right? Local networking events, I think are a big deal. We have a lot of STEM ones here, and I think resource management not primarily, but a lot of the time falls in the STEM industry. So going to those type of network events, looking for them, just Google, networking events near me even, and really connect with anybody and anyone there. Everybody comes from different backgrounds. It's really awesome to meet new people, learn their experiences, and maybe they'll know somebody. So I also think too, if you're looking at your current role and current organization, how can you build on that? How can you, to Andrea's point, yes, there's YouTube, but what can I do maybe internally to gain that experience that I might not have unless I transition? And a lot of times I know places are looking for people with experience. So that's hard. How do I get the experience if nobody's willing to hire me? So I think trying to engage within your current role or your current organization to see what else can I do? How can I maybe expand my role or gain those skills, right? Maybe I can shadow somebody else. Anything to do to build the skills, build the experience, within the possibility of your realm, I think it's a good idea as well.
Nice, great build with the connections, and the role of the resource manager is to manage skills for everyone else. So don't forget about yourself. I think that's a key point, Nikki. Well said. And Sid, anything else that is top of your mind for advice?
Sure. I've actually seen a couple new terms out in the market just recently, like workforce planning is definitely out there as a title. And capacity analyst is something that I saw the other day. So there are some really interesting terms. The other thing I would add is connecting with other resource managers, really hearing their stories and their journeys and how they came to be where they're at in their journey. Another thing that I personally have done is look at CRM platforms that contain resource management functions, just to look at how those builds are created to keep myself skilled up on terms and needs in resource management, but also connecting with people that work in those organizations It's a great way to understand the trends and what they're seeing as well. So.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, I chose you for a reason. You're such a great panel. I love all the recommendations and especially connecting with resource managers. I think I speak on behalf of all of us when I invite everyone who's joining us today or might be watching the recording to connect with us. I think we're all extremely excited, enthusiastic about resource management and growing the field, making the resource management community stronger. So feel free to reach out to any of us and let's build on those connections, as you very rightfully said, Sid. Thank you. And the CRM platforms are also very, very smart. I love that. I would like to invite everyone who's listening to capture some questions in the Q&A. I can see there's already one question. Please feel free to add some. Now is the perfect moment as we'll be moving into the Q&A shortly. So this is your chance to basically use these smart brains for whatever is top of your mind moving into the new year. I'm wondering, Andrea, why is resource management, this profession, this industry, a dream job for you? What keeps you motivated? What do you love about resource management?
Yes, I think it's the people and the impact that the role can have. I think resource management, you often hear about the operations team or the finance team or, all of these other very critical components of an organization. But resource management touches all of those teams, which is awesome, and drives their agendas, drives their strategies through the alignment of people appropriately. So that's on the business side of the organization, but also on the human side of the actual employees that you're impacting. You truly have an opportunity to help drive their career and put them in places where they may not have been able to navigate themselves. And so I think that's really an important piece. And then the other piece is I love the transformation. I love the change management. So I appreciate that every day is not the same. And you're facing a different challenge every day. Every organization is different, every process is different. And so I love the opportunity to be really always be on and having to think and negotiate. We do a lot of negotiations, a lot of negotiating, and really focus on that change and how to make things better. So I think the opportunity to kind of leave your mark or leave your stamp on a process or a change process is super exciting for me.
Oh, fantastic. You make me fall in love with resource management as you speak. I can really sense the purpose, the impact that you see in this job. And it's so beautiful. I mean, without that feeling of contributing to something meaningful, it's very hard to do a job well. And I can so see, as you alluded to, that the resource manager can have so many impacts on so many levels, right? That's super exciting.
Right.
The business side, the people side, being that connector. I wonder, Sid, what you would like to add? What keeps you motivated to be in this space?
Yeah, very similar. I love how Andrea worded that. I love working with all of the different departments. You're really sort of in this centralized function of collaborating with other departments. Often you're liaising between, executive leadership and employees. I love being that bridge between the two. And working with that human element of matching people to projects that are inspiring to them, helping them with shadow potentials and learning development, but also playing a role in the strategy of the business and providing the data and the analysis workups to help make strategic decisions for the business. So impact is a great word. I think you mentioned it before, Nora, but I feel like it's such a field with great impact in the company. I love that.
Absolutely. And like being that centerpiece is also so interesting, right? It's very dynamic, as you said, Andrea, and also there's this huge focus on collaboration and being you know, basically in the middle, at the heart of the organization, connected to the C-suite, connected to basically what's going on day to day on the project. So yeah, you really get a whole picture view of the org. I mean, how fabulous is that? That's quite rare, right? Who else has that opportunity? Nikki, how about you? I know you're very excited about
It's so
this
hard
topic.
to follow up after both of those answers because I couldn't agree more. But I mean, there was just no better feeling for me than when somebody that either, I hired or that I resourced says, I feel like I was heard. I, that nobody's ever listened to me before, or, this was the best project I've ever worked on. So I love developing people and I love playing a part in that. I also have always said resource management is kind of like building a puzzle without a box to look at. And personally, I love that. I'm a big puzzle person. I like figuring things out, right? So when you get that win, when you see, something that could have happened and you successfully, whether it's resource it or just strategically, place the right team, anything like that. I love that feeling of that like I said, that puzzle piece. And I learn something new every day. I feel like
Mm.
there is never a dull day here in resource management. You get to learn pieces of the business that not everybody gets to. You get to learn the project work. You get to learn what's needed on the whole scope of the company. Like Sid mentioned, you get to learn the company's needs as well. It's
Mm.
so amazing to have all that information at your fingertips, but also to be the person that provides information.
Mhm.
So I guess just the fact that every day is different and I'm always learning something new.
100%. Yes. Yes. Amen. You all three nailed it. So I can see that there are already 3 questions in the Q&A. Please feel free to add them. For anyone who is posting questions in the chat, you would do me a huge favor if you could copy them into the Q&A. This way we have it all in one place. And also feel free to rate them up so I can prioritize the ones that are most interesting to you. Just for your information, all the questions that we will not be able to answer in this live session, we will still answer. We have put aside some time post this live webinar to answer everything that's outstanding. So every question will be answered. So it's very worthwhile to ask them. Cool. So I'll just pick the first question now. Thanks everyone for inputting. So there is one question around from Beth. Around with the ever-changing environment. Resourcing may use employment type to be flexible. Do you have any tips on how to get operations to accept different employment types other than staff, resources, for example, subcontractor or project-only employees? And maybe, yeah, whoever wants to give it a go. Nikki, I can see you're already typing.
Beth and I go way back, so I'll let somebody else answer. We were colleagues together at RQM Plus. Good to see you, Beth. Thanks for joining.
Nice. Do you want to have a go?
Oh, sure. I'm sorry. Could you repeat that? I lost when I responded. I lost the question.
Yeah, no worries. So, how can we get operations across the line to accept different employment types rather than full-time internal resource? How can we also get subcontractors, project-only employees on board?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question because a lot of the times it might be contract based or the client might have in mind what they want. I think if you can really put something together, whether it's 2 part-time employees that are sitting and have availability and show what that does to the organization, such as draining, right? Draining resources, draining finance, because those folks are just sitting, or even having somebody who's full-time and they're on different projects but they have that availability. Same goes with contractors. Anything to provide the company savings and insight around savings, I think it's huge. And
Mm,
being able to provide the why. So as Andrea
mm,
said, a lot of what we do is storytelling. A lot
mhm,
of what we do is selling, right? So you have to put on your sales hat, and really tell the why. Why would this work? How would it work? And what it could potentially look like in the future versus maybe the downfall of what they thought they needed in the first place. So,
Absolutely.
comparing options.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Love it. Andrea, Sid, anything you would like to add to this question?
Yeah, from my perspective, definitely data modeling and analysis. Do comparison analysis. You can't argue with the numbers. So if you're able to do a data analysis comparing rates of different employment types and adding that to the storytelling, like what Nikki said, I think it's a great way to be heard. The other thing I would add is communication with sales and partnering with sales. Sales wants to sell, and if they have some creative ideas around how to sell their items better with different employment types, that could be a great way to make a case for that as well.
Fantastic additions. Yeah, thank you. And Andrea.
I would say the only thing I would add to Nikki and Sid would be if these are niche skills that you don't typically need to staff for. So that is definitely a low-hanging fruit from a business case perspective. If the skills are niche, you shouldn't hire an FTE to support the project because they'll have a long term of after that project, what are they going to do? So really thinking through the business case of why you're bringing on an FTE and putting maybe some guidelines around why you would hire versus why you would bring in a subcontractor that can kind of guide the conversation.
Yeah, I love it. So the storytelling continues even beyond the kind of tactical and strategic. It's also around, the bigger picture and taking into consideration the gig economy. I love it. Thank you all three so much. I'm gonna pick the next question. We've got, what AI tools are becoming a standard in the resource management function, and how do you keep up to date on AI trends across all roles to understand the skills requirements for matching talent to roles? Maybe who wants to start? Whoever unmutes first. Andrea.
I was going to say, I'm happy to jump in on that one. I think a lot of folks want to use AI. And what I will say before you even jump into AI is you have to have a clean data governance process. If you put data that does not have a governance process or is just not, garbage in, garbage out, AI is not going to be sufficient, because remember, AI is always learning. So you want to make sure that your processes and your data governance are prepared in order to leverage AI. And I think to keep up on trends in technology, there are quite a few. So there's resource management technology out there right now that are building or have like maybe a first phase of AI built into the systems. I will say though, I will caution again, if your processes don't work, that AI is not useful. So I think the caution I would put out there is just be careful as you're suggesting AI, as you're thinking about the pre-work to lead up to being able to leverage AI, because once you implement it and then people are like, well, it doesn't give the lift we were expecting, then there's frustration that sets in, and then you kind of lose them. So that's the caution. But I would say a lot of the main players in the resource management technology space are leveraging AI or some type of machine learning to be able to strategically staff professionals to their skill sets. Again, you would need that skills database that Sid and Nikki mentioned earlier to be able to leverage that. And then to stay up on trends, I think it's just utilizing AI in your daily life. ChatGPT, Artemis is one that I use all the time, but some AI Google Gemini is another one that I use a lot, to help you craft emails, whatever is approved for your specific organization. That's another thing I would say, make sure it's approved, because there's a lot of red tape that could be around that. But start utilizing it in your daily world to get more comfortable. For example, prompting is really a big one. So understanding how to use prompts accordingly within AI tools, just in how you interact day to day, and that will prompt you for how to utilize it within resource management that works for your culture and your organization.
I love it. What's your favorite prompt, Andrea?
The one that is trending right now is knowing what you know about me, what is the one word to describe me? Or, this is my role. What is the one word that you would say what is my one word to describe me for 2025? I think that's like highly trending right now. But
Nice. And
my favorite prompt in day to day is helping me to start writing an email. Gemini, we use Google for Business, and Gemini is awesome as saying like, hey, write a follow-up email for me. And so I use that all the time.
nice. Awesome. Just curious on that topic. Nikki, do you have a favorite prompt?
Favorite prompt. I'm not sure favorite prompt, but I will say one of my favorite uses for AI is job aids and policies. So helping me
Mhm.
write them, helping me, even tweak them as they change, as they're needed. With resource management being new, had to create a lot of them, or if they're already there, maybe filtering it through the AI system to say, how can I make this better? Does this make sense? Is there anything I missed? Because
Mm.
if it does have access to your system or your data, it can analyze what that looks like and review and come up with best practices as well. So I think helping with job aids, policies, procedures, and best practices is my favorite thing to use it for.
Awesome. Very cool. And how about you, Sid? Any use case or prompt you would like to share that has been useful for you?
Yeah, I like using it to actually reword. So once I construct something, I'll go in and ask, please reword this and just copy and paste what I've created and put it in there.
Mhm.
Just to see if something different is spit out that I didn't consider before. And sometimes it will jog my creativity too.
Yeah, yeah, amazing. Thanks, all of you. Any resource management specific mm, use case or prompt that springs into your mind, more specifically job related?
Oh no, go ahead, Nikki.
I think we all jumped on this one. One thing I'm excited to use it for, we're not quite there yet because we're still building our skills database. But one thing I am really excited to use it for is to analyze the deficits in skills across our organization.
Nice. So you can basically share these are the projects we're doing, these are the people we have
Mhm.
skills. What,
Yes, and where might we have a high need? Where might we run into issues, right, for not having that skill? Also recognizing that is that skill needed? How highly in demand is it? But yes, being able to have that predictive nature in the skills world.
And then coming back to the previous question, it will be even easier to make the case for contractors if we don't have those skills. It will be super transparent and it will be obvious that we might need some contractors for certain things. Nice.
Exactly, exactly.
Fantastic. Cool. Andrea, you also unmuted yourself. Anything you would like to add?
Yeah, I think the one that we're closest to is really having the tools be able to recommend or shortlist resources based on the project needs. I think that one is, we're really getting close. I don't think any one tool does it great right now, but we're getting really close to being able to do that. And I'm excited about that one too, because it removes the bias that all of us have, or, by consciously or unconsciously, whether it, however you staff, but it really helps remove that bias and really gets to the goal of staffing by skill set and experience, or whatever the parameters might be for your specific organization. So I'm super excited for that.
Oh, fantastic. And just on that topic, because it's so important, data-driven decisions in resource management, AI, how do you upskill? So apart from YouTube, which I can imagine is quite the good source, how do you keep up to date? How do you help to stay up to date? Do you have any advice, perhaps, that might be valuable for others?
Yeah, I would
And
say for myself, LinkedIn Learning, I use it a ton, and they have a lot of great tools on there for AI that are AI specific. So I definitely think LinkedIn Learning. I also think you should follow there's a lot of folks that that do this work day to day. And so I follow a lot of folks that have tips and tricks for how to use for prompting, and cheat sheet for prompting, or cheat sheet for how we use it in this business case. So follow those type of folks as well. And I'm happy to share that too, of a couple of folks I follow on LinkedIn. So sorry, Sid, if I cut you. I'm sorry.
That's fantastic. Yeah, Andrea, if you could maybe provide that to us, and we're most
Sure.
happy to share it with everyone in our follow-up email. That would be extremely helpful. Just some thought leaders to follow who are sharing
Absolutely.
valuable things. Cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sid, also keen to hear from you.
Yeah, no, sorry, I was going back to AI tooling in resource management. And one of the things that I've dreamed of, that I see it kind of just beginning now, is scenario planning, based on project trends historically. So looking at, how long do these typical types of projects last? What are the typical resources that we would use on them? And doing automated scenario planning, which then aids into capacity planning as well.
Oh, 100%. That's such a good use case. 100% agreed. And any tips from you, Nikki, Sid, in regards to AI, staying up to date?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of great webinars out there. So if you, are familiar with any of the larger ones, like GPT always has webinars. They're free. So even just looking up or doing a quick search, right? AI webinar, that would probably populate a various amount. And then it's all about networking, right? So then you build your network, get to learn about expert experience, how they use it, and just keeping up to date with the market, really, and
Love it.
where it's going too, because we might be good at what we know today, but it's going to change. So I think that's important too.
Yeah, very nice. And I just want to also shout out to Kay Brown, who just posted LinkedIn Learning, Coursera, Course Hero, Udemy, resource management, and or tech conferences and other webinars. So very much along the same lines. And I can just point you to a webinar that we did, I think it was in September last year, on AI in resource management, where personally I took so much away, so many insights. It's for free. Please feel free to check it out on our website. It's there for you to learn and grow, to make the resource management community stronger. So please use those resources as much as you can. Nice. I think we might have an opportunity to tackle one more question before we're closing off. And as we alluded to, we will answer all the questions that are outstanding anyway. So thanks so much. There are 5 open questions right now, which is super, super exciting. And I just want to pick a question from Ravi. Thanks so much. There are multiple questions here, but maybe let's pick this one. How often should a resource manager interact with resources? That's a very practical question. I like it. Having the 3 of you in the room, what are your best practices? How often, and maybe how? What are some of the best ways to do so, to interact with resources? And maybe Nikki, do you want to start?
Yes, I think it really truly depends on the size of the organization, how many resources you manage, or how your resources are distributed between each resource manager, if there are multiple. So that being said, it truly is, I would advise against your capacity. Also recognizing some orgs want to go through like a team lead. But historically, with a smaller organization, I'd say, it truly depends on the project they work on too. Is it a dynamic project? Is it a short project? Is it a long project that they're dedicated to, right? So I think it really depends on the project as well. I had monthly meetings with resources, but I also had quarterly and maybe even every 6 months, because they were on a true dedicated, I come into this project, it's a long contract, I know what I need to do, and they know I'm there to reach out if they need me. So always just maybe even just checking in via email, how's it going, making them known that I'm there to support them, but also
Mhm.
recognizing they have their job to do and they might not want to meet with me all the time because it's very, standard and status quo. So I hate to say that. I don't think there's a one size fits all answer here. I really think it depends on, again, the organization, the way work is distributed, as well as the project that they're supporting.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. I love this expression, by the way. So good. So thank you very much, Nikki. Any other thoughts, Sid and Andrea? A short answer from you. Anything you would like to add?
Sure. Yeah. No, I do think Nikki hit the nail on the head. It just is so dependent on the size of the organization and also the communication path of the teams, if you're working with the team leads or the individual resources. One thing that I have done in the past is I've created sort of a listening tour or like a survey check-in that I would give out once a month, once a quarter, just to see if there's any training opportunities for resources. Like, do you need help reading your schedule? What do you see as a deficit in the resource management area? What would aid you? Just to make sure that I'm aware of the actual employee resources and any needs that they might have from resource management or areas that I could develop.
Yeah, amazing. A listening tour is also something that keeps on coming up in every webinar. So a very, very good piece of advice. Thank you, Sid, for sharing. And a pulse survey, I think, is also a very viable tool to just understand where everyone is at. Nice. Thank you so much. I'm so sad to say we've come to the end of this discussion. From the bottom of my heart, thanks so much to the three of you. What a joy it's been. I certainly would love to repeat this. I had so much joy exploring this topic with you, kicking off the new year in such a high spirit. Thanks for all of your advice, your insights. Everything you've shared with us was so valuable. I'm sure I can see all the reactions flying around, and also the chat is full of compliments for you. So thank you very, very much for this very, very nice discussion. Also, thanks everyone for dialing in. I'm excited to just give a little bit of a sneak peek as to what you can expect in the next month. As I already mentioned, we will dive into a very relevant topic, which is data governance. So feel free to join us on the 11th of February, where we'll be talking about making sense of data governance in resource management with Martha Arias Webster, Gary Ward, and Brian Naylor. So some familiar faces to our webinar. Very, very happy to welcome them back. And that's it from me. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Thanks, Nikki, Andrea, Sid. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I hope that you and everyone joining us will have a fantastic 2025. Thank you so much and all the best.
Thank you, Nora.
Thank you. Take care.